I grew up with very little confidence. And seeing all the girls like wear tank tops and makeup, and I felt like such an outsider, like wanted to change everything about me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that might have been a contributor to me growing up being insecure. There was a lot of things that happened around me that made my world crumble.
When did you notice that there was something wrong in just trying to fit in?
It was a year after my breakup. And I had to really reach deep within me and said to myself, okay, I said, is there anybody's life I want here? And I said, no, I don't want anybody's life here. So what does that mean for me? That means I gotta move, I gotta go somewhere.
It seemed you were confident in yourself that you can achieve anything you put your mind to. But when did you gain that confidence?
So because I lost everybody. I think when you don't have anything, you have no choice. I was left with nothing. Anytime I've ever plunged forward, it's because I've allowed myself to fail. Those are the moments that had built me. And that's where that confidence came in. And I said to myself, from this point forward, I'm not going to live in a mold anymore. If you know yourself fully, you can commit to a decision much better, fearless of what's to come.
What a beautiful thing.
Can you see how it's transformed who you are?
100%. Something always happens in my life to remind me how much stronger I'm becoming as a person and how much more in tune I am, not only with myself, but with God and with the people around me. I got into a car accident and I remember being devastated because I couldn't move my shoulder. I had herniations throughout my back, bulging disc, upper and lower. During that time, I knew, I was like, I'm stronger than what I used to be, because what was supposed to be a 6-month, 1 year, 2 year, maybe never process. So mind you, I got in the car accident beginning of 2023, where they said I would never be able to compete again. And I got my crown at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
I was back and working out 3 months later.
Wow. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee, Matcha, and Soul. I'm Saurav Archbedian. I'm here with my close friends and co-host, Guillermo Ivan, Zaire Montez. Joining us today for some coffee or matcha, we'll see which one soon, is Irene Jean Santos, a celebrated personal trainer and WBFF crown holder with nearly 20 years of experience in the fitness industry. Irene is dedicated to empowering individuals to achieve full happiness through mental, physical, and financial health. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Irene.
Thank you for having me.
So, what are you doing? I think you did a poll or something. And what did your audience say you'll be drinking?
I did. So an hour before I got here, I had them choose between matcha and coffee because I equally love both. And coffee won. So here I am with macchiato.
I have to say, I contributed to
Well,
that
and I can
poll.
say that for the
So
first
cheers
time
to
I'm
that.
having
We're gonna
matcha.
cheers to our... There we go.
There you go.
All right, so we're even.
We're even,
okay.
yeah.
Fine. I'll-
Exactly. And
But-
first time for
but-
Guillermo.
For the first time, look.
I know, that's amazing.
This is incredible.
I felt very honored to make Guillermo's matcha. I was very excited.
It's really
to do
good,
that.
by the way.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm
Well, I think
following.
we're converting you. So.
No, you don't have to go that far.
He's got to just have a matcha dessert.
Listen,
Yeah. That I can
the
do.
only
I love
thing that we don't do in this show is converting anybody to
Yes,
anything.
to anything.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
So, Irene, tell us a little bit about like your journey and how you got into fitness. What was the inspiration that led you to fitness in the fitness world?
There's a few. My family being one of them. Love my family. Love you guys. But it basically, growing up, I had alcoholism in my family, unhealthy habits that I experienced and witnessed. And my siblings, relatives being heavy, having health issues. I made a path for myself and decided I don't want to go down that path. I want to live longer and healthier and not have as much complications when it comes to my health. So that was the first driving force. The second would be I grew up with very little confidence. Believe it or not, for those who know me now, I did not have a lot of confidence growing up. And I was in a relationship where I had zero. Granted, I played it off very well, that I did. I came out of that relationship realizing that I needed to do something with my passion and to do something outside of just being a worker bee. And what was it that I was really good at and passionate about? which is fitness. So from when I was 18 years old, I started working out, training myself, watching videos. I was always so excited when I would get into the gym and when I would find new ways to improve my own health, that when I went into this adventure of what could I do other than the financial aspect of what's going to make me money that I'm going to enjoy every day, that's where fitness came in. So that's really how it flourished, is through my family and then through the relationship and not having that self-confidence into, all right, this is what I have to be doing to be able to build all of the above and to be able to help others around me.
When did you, or sorry, go ahead.
No, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
for
go
you.
ahead.
I have a lot of questions for you, but before I ask you those specifics, can you share with us a little bit more about your background? How was it when you were a child? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the Philippines. I
Uh-huh.
came here in 97 when I was 11. Growing up, my sister was a famous actress. So she still is. Her name
In the Philippines?
in the
or-
Philippines,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Wow.
She's done hundreds of movies and she's done hundreds of shows. She's a singer, actress, an amazing woman.
Is she older?
She's older. So she's the eldest and I am the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
I am the youngest of 8, so I'm the 9th baby.
Wow.
But my mom has her set of children and my dad has his set of children.
Mhm.
So there is my sister, who's an actress in the Philippines. So she took care of me. My mother was in the U.S. working. I was left alone a lot. I know again, my family's going to see this, and I'm all about being honest about my past
Yeah.
because it's the only way that you're going to get to know me.
Sure.
And it has nothing, no reflection on my family. They're amazing and they love me in the best way that they knew how. With that said, I was left alone with my grandparents.
Mhm.
Rest in peace, a lot as a child. So my imagination really ran wild as a kid.
Mhm.
This is where in the Philippines?
So I lived in Manila.
Manila.
Mm-hmm.
And how was it? How was that environment? How was?
It was a whole different world. So I grew up going to private school, Catholic school, and makeup was not a thing. Nail polish was not a thing. If I went to school, even with a wrinkled uniform, you wouldn't even be able to get in.
Wow.
You would just sit, and you couldn't go home either.
Wow.
So you sat outside.
Wow.
And that's how strict the private school was. And it was an honor to be in a private school, So it was very, very different. It was very hard for me to get a good grade.
Mhm.
Here in the US, I got all A's and I was like a shining student. In the meantime, in the Philippines, I could barely get a B.
Wow.
It was very hard.
Uh-huh.
School was very hard. As a
Because
first grader,
they were very strict, or
just the studies in general is completely different. We were dissecting animals at first grade.
Wow.
And they, our national anthem was like, we had to stand outside and pronounce the whole national, and it was long. We had a long song, we had to sing with it. Outside of that, our classes were just more advanced. We had to learn English. We had to learn English. It was a requirement.
Wow.
So we had English classes, history classes of the Philippines, and everything was very, very advanced. And it was very hard to keep up because it was projects upon projects. Coming here as a 6th grader, it was like, all right, I read, I did some stuff at school, projects, and then I was done there. It was like, no, you had to write papers, and it was intense.
Yeah.
It was as if I was in college here. I was like, oh. So I was not a good student.
And then you came here, and how was that transition? How was transition from the Philippines to the US?
It was very difficult.
And
It
how
was a
old were
whole
you?
culture shock. I was 11 years old.
Okay.
So when I came here, I remember starting school in 6th grade. So I was supposed to be in 5th grade. I started school in 6th grade. And seeing all the girls like wear tank tops and makeup, and I felt like such an outsider. Like, and the way they were speaking, I spoke like very respectful. Nothing against the children of the United States, but in the Philippines, it was yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I was raised very, very differently. I was in a bubble. And coming out of that bubble where you can freely speak your mind with the adults and have all of this stuff on your face and act like a grown adult as a young adult, it was very, very different for me.
Yeah.
The only way I was able to be an adult there was if I did my chores and mind my manners and made sure that I did my studies, and that was it. Here it's like, you go out with your friends and you have sleepovers and this and that. And again, I grew up differently. Not everybody in the Philippines grew up the way that I did, but that's my family and my experience. So growing up here, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, Mom, can I do this? Can I go out? Can I wear this? Can I wanted to change everything about me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that might have been a contributor to me growing up being insecure, because it was in the Philippines, I was left alone all the time, and then seeing all these girls hanging out with each other, I'm like, how do I fit in there? And it was a battle.
Was that difficult for you, like to fit?
I believe at first I had a really hard time, but I like to think, watching my sister, she's such an amazing actress, that I was able to take on a lot of her contributing factors of her being such a good actress. And whether it bothered me or not, I think I was able to watch my surroundings and see how I could be and fit into that mold. And I got used to fitting into mold, being here at a young age. And that's later on what I had to derive away from, knowing that I needed to find myself, to be in my own mold, to have my true self-confidence. And that took time, because again, growing up, it was like, how do I fit into your mold so that I can fit into your world and I could be accepted? And then, again, throughout the years later on, I changed that.
So you're mentioning that you were trying to fit in, and then you have to find your way and discover who you really were. When did it happen? Like, when did you notice that there was something wrong in just trying to fit in, or when you received that call that your soul wanted to be your true expression of yourself, and what happened in that moment?
That's a great question. I remember the exact moment. It was during my breakup. It was a year after my breakup. This was in 2012. I had been done with my relationship for a year of 6 years. And I met these wonderful group of people in Sacramento, California, is where I resided at the moment. And we had the best summer of our lives. It was one of those things where it was, let's do a bucket list, let's make a pact with each other that we're going to be single, and really just experience life as women, right? And I had been in relationships prior to that. So going through that experience, it was like, okay, I'm coming into a different type of woman, but I was still fitting into the mold at that moment so that I could be a part of that group. And a few things had happened in those relationships that made us break apart we were like the trio, made us break apart. And it's all in all parts. Once that happened, I was left with nothing. I didn't really hang out with them. I didn't have a boyfriend. I had my friend Tiffany, who I ended up living with. There was a lot of things that happened around me that made my world crumble. And it was as if I was alone. And parts of it, a lot of it is my doing. Just being, a early 20-year-old experiencing life. And so when that had happened, I felt so alone. And I said to myself, how is someone like me, who knows everyone and who you would say popular, who was in the light, and I was dating someone who was in the limelight, and I had so many eyes on me on social media and whatever, and then I would end up alone. How did that happen? And I had to really reach deep within me and said to myself, okay, I looked around and I said, is there anybody's life I want here? And I said, no, I don't want anybody's life here. So what does that mean for me? That means I got to move. I got to go somewhere. So at the end of 2012, I made a decision to leave all of my things behind, to find myself and find out why I was unhappy. I went to New Jersey to visit my brother, and visiting him, I only had 2 suitcases. On the way to Jersey, I had an epiphany, and I'm like, maybe I'm not meant to go back to Sacramento. The life I was living there it didn't align with who I wanted to be. Yeah, I made money. Yeah, I had a good time, but there was no genuine friendships in my mind. And again, it could have been my doing. And I would say a lot of it had to have been because I partaked in them, right? But coming to New Jersey, I said, I'll know the answer when I get there. God, give me the answer. I will know when I get there. And when I landed, I saw my brother And I remember looking at him and being so nervous. And he is a leader of a leadership group for a Christian church in New Jersey, and he lives in the Bethesda home. So he's very, very in tune with his spirit, his God and his family. My brother did not grow up that way. We grew up differently. You know, we grew up from a home where we didn't have our dads, and so it's just knowing this and seeing this and knowing I'm about to go into a home with my two nieces and his wife, where he's changed his whole life. I'm like, maybe this is my answer. I don't know. So I came to my brother and I'm like, I would like to know if I could stay with you. And he's like, what do you mean stay with me? I'm like, I could stay with you, like until I find a place and move out on my own. And he's like, oh boy. He's like, I don't know. He didn't know what he got himself into. So he said, you know what? I'll talk to my wife. I'll talk to the church, because the church, again, they live in a church where it's owned by the church, or in a home where it's owned by the church. I got to talk to the church, see what they think, how they feel about it. I'll plead your case and let's see what happens. And I'm like, oh God, please, like, let me stay here. I want to eventually have a sense of family and community. And I feel like this is my answer. And so thank God the church group said yes. And I remember my brother saying an analogy to me, and he's like, I think we see you like as a broken bird with a wing broken off, and where we want to help you fix it so you could fly again. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. I was like, but I appreciate it. I'll stay here. So that's where that epiphany came from, and that's how I catapulted to the next level or the next stage of my life.
Well, when did you find working out? How did that become
Yeah,
the
so that's
vehicle
interesting.
to,
It's very good question. I was helping my brother with my nieces, and I was trying to look for work. I was like, you know what? In Sacramento, I was making a good amount of money, and I had just left everything, everything in that relationship, and everything. So when I had come here, I'm like, what am I going to do? How, my resume, it's extensive, but yet it's with a company who had gone under. And I was an assistant to a guy who owned a limousine company. So I was like driving limousines. He did insurance. He had the debt consolidation, which is what I got into for work. I also worked as a door girl. Like, there was a lot of things. I was all over the place in Sacramento.
Wow.
I believe never lived the same day twice. And I was definitely living life that way. So coming here, I'm like, how do I find a job really quickly? So I said to myself, okay, let me go for a run. It was the first year. It was the first snow of the year in 2012. It was heavy snow. And I remember the snow being like this high. I'm like, what's going on outside? It was a blizzard. So that morning I woke up and I said, I can't just be sitting here at home. I have to find a job. Like, let me go for a run and let me get out of this house. So then I told my brother, I'm going to go for a run. So I go for a run and I'm like bundled up because I'm not used to it. Sacramento doesn't get that cold. I'm wearing all kinds of clothing, everything I could find. And I go out and I start running outside. So I start to feel good. I'm like, God, please help me. Like, I'm lost. I don't have a job. I don't know what to do. I feel like a bum. My brother's looking at me every day. And granted, it had only been like two weeks, 3 weeks that I've been here. I felt like a bum. So I go into this little shopping area, and there is this thing called Muscle Maker Grill. And it said, now hiring. So I'm like, oh, that looks healthy. Let me go in there. Let me go in there and eat. So I go in there. His name is Louis, the manager at the time. I go in there and eat, and we're talking, we're having a conversation. I said, well, I love this concept of healthy food. I love my health. And I feel like this is something that I've never seen before, or maybe I've just never been open to it. And he told me a little bit about Muscle Maker Grill. And I said, I'm looking for a job. Like, I don't know. I was just like, I'm looking for a job. And it looked like you're looking for help. And he's like, you know what? I like you. And he said, why don't you come back tomorrow and let's try you out? I was like, really? Just like that? I'm like, okay. He's like, the pay isn't very good. I'm like, all right, what is it? It's $7.50 an hour. I'm like, $7.50 an hour? Like, how am I going to live? But I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll come back tomorrow. I'll start, and I get excited. I'm like, I don't care what it is. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to the best ability. So then that kickstarted a little bit of what was already in me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to be a part of this restaurant. It's going to be great. I go home, tell my brother about it. I go back the next day. I start working for Lois for Muscle Maker Grill. And it's wild because what happens is I get a second job at Starbucks, which is right next to it. I'm getting somewhere. So I work at Starbucks. I'm working at 4 a.m. till 11 a.m. And then I go to the restaurant from 11 a.m. till around like 5, 6 p.m.
Wow.
And then I get a third job at Dunkin' Donuts
Oh wow.
Wow.
from 6 till around 1 a.m. because it was open later in the mall.
Wow.
So now I have 3 jobs. So I'm
So
doing
how many
this.
hours are you sleeping at that time?
I'm not sleeping. So I'm literally sleeping like 3 hours, if that.
Wow.
But I'm like, I need a job, I need a place, and I'm just going in the circle. I'm like in this hamster wheel, right?
Mhm.
And during that time, I said to myself, once I get through this, I will never be in this hamster wheel ever again.
Mm.
I will, I will be my own boss. I will, and this is like a goal now that I have all these goals after working all these hours. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. Never going to be put in this situation ever again.
Mm.
So I work at all 3 places. So fast forward a few weeks after working at Muscle Maker Grill, I've always been somebody who encourages people. So Louis sees me working hard and I tell him, I said, Louis, I have a dream. And I've always had this 5-year plan of me helping women around the world. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to do it. I was going to figure it out. I'm like 5 years, 10 years, somehow, some way I'm going to do it. And I'm telling Louis all my dreams and all my hopes because we get close. So anyways, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now into Muscle Maker Grill. So this is in January. He says to me, you inspired me. He said, I am going to go for the job that I always wanted for my kids and my wife and myself. And I want you to be the manager. I said, wait, what? He said, if I get the job, I'm going to tell the owner that you're a good person and that you deserve this job more than me and that I'm going to leave him. I said, oh, okay, sure. Like, he's like, would you want that? I'm like, sure. Yeah, of course. Why not? So then a month into the job, he gets the job. I take over and I am the manager of Muscle Maker Grill.
Wow.
It was wild.
Wow.
So I quit Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks and I'm just at Muscle Maker Grill. So fast forward a few weeks later, corporate comes. And corporate goes, we like how well you're doing. Just in the past like month and a half that I've been there, sales have been up. I mean, I turned this whole place around.
Wow.
And at that time, I was like, let me do something for myself. I'm going to start competing. I said to myself, now that I got the managerial job, I'm going to compete because I saw a competitor and I said, that's how I'm going to get my self-confidence and that's how I'm going to build my discipline. And something's going to happen from this. So I signed up for my first competition, which was going to be in April. I became a manager, so I started training for that. 2 amazing gentlemen come into our store who owned a gym down the street. Star and Dimitri was their name. And they come in and they see me and we get to talk and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to compete. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a gym, but I'm going to make it work because I know I'm going to top, I'm going to place. And they're like, we believe in you. They said, come to our gym. We'll train you for free. I said, oh, okay. I said, oh, I could give you discounts. And they're like, no, we want to train you for free.
Wow.
They said, we believe in you and we think that you have a lot of spirit and you would be good for our gym. And it was like a work gym where people come on their lunchtime and other people could come into.
Wow.
So I start working out at this gym and they teach me so much about anything that I need to know. And I basically lived in that gym. I had like a locker where I put all my stuff in. My brother's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to work and then I'm going to the gym. I'm going to work and then I'm going to the gym. So this is what I was doing. And they sponsored me. Thank you so much, guys. They bought my supplements, everything. I felt so blessed. I was like, oh, wow. So they were with me through that journey. So that's how.
And when did that start? Like what year?
Same year. Everything was in the same year. It was 2013, beginning
Wow,
of
that quick.
2013. This was just January,
And
February.
you're still living
Wow.
with your brother.
I'm still living with my
That's
brother.
fast. Amazing.
So now corporate comes and they tell me, we want you to be the face of Muscle Maker Grill. Because we believe you have the passion and you believe in it. And I said, the face? What do you mean? They said, we're going to bring you to Manhattan. We're going to do an interview with you. You're going to talk about the company. I said, okay. Yeah, that sounds fun. Whatever. I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. So then I go into Manhattan and I do an interview like this. They're talking about my life. What's your vision? What do you want to be? What are you doing now? How do you feel about the company? And, I give them all the answers, blah, blah, blah. This was like a 2-hour long interview. They do my makeup. I was like, wow, this is so fun. So I get back. One day, corporate called me and said, one of our stores is having a problem. The manager didn't show up. We're going to need you to step in. I said, oh, okay, yeah, why not? Like, tell me where it is. Let me cover this. My assistant manager will cover the store. I said, all right, I got it. I'll be there. So then I worked. I literally at the end of this day cried because of how horrible it was. I got there at 9 a.m. I had a trainee who was half deaf in his ear, couldn't hear me, would not cooperate with anything I was saying as a trainee. I was like, how do I handle this as a manager? Like, you are not. He was like all over the customer's face. I had someone choking in the restaurant. Like, this guy was like choking on my watch. And I'm like, this is the worst store I've ever been in. I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. I had a people like do a picnic in the thing. I'm like, this has to be a joke. Like, I must be getting punked. I don't know what's happening, but this is so weird. Like, someone choked on me. Someone's having a freaking picnic all within 8 hours. And then a whole bunch of old seniors come in with like a yoga ball and they're running around. And we're trying to get their order. Like, we just had a slew of people come in. I'm trying to direct my employees, direct the customers. And then the people who bring in the orders, like our order of rice, everything comes into the front door, which are supposed to come in through the back. And I'm like handling everything all at once. Like, everything just happened. It was like a whirlwind. Rice was spilling all over the floor. Like, I was like, this has to be a joke. This cannot be real life. I don't know what is happening right now. I don't like it. I'm going to handle it and I'm going to cry after, but I don't like it.
Where's the camera? Where's the camera? I mean,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, right.
So then I tell the corporate guy, I'm like, I don't know. Like, because he was like, how was it? I said, it was miserable. I said, but you know what? I dealt with it. And I don't know if I want to go back to the store, but if you really need me, I'm going to help you. And so now a few weeks go by and I go back into the city to do the second part of my interview. And now, mind you, I'm like, okay, we're in here. We get into a van and there's 4 other people with me, 3 other people with me. Excuse me. And they said, you're not allowed to talk to each other. I said, oh, this is weird. What do you mean we're not allowed to talk to each other? And you have to sign this paper that says it's confidential. You're not allowed to talk about what you're about to see here, blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, that's also very weird, but okay, why not? Yeah. So they do our makeup or whatever. We're all doing makeup. We go into this room, right? They line us up. They said there's going to be an X on the mark, blah, blah, blah. We're going to have you guys stand on the X. They still haven't told us anything. And so we go out into this room and we're in this X and I'm just standing there. And Walter Bond's come on and he's at the front with the owner of all the Muscle Maker Grills, Rod. He says, hello, do you guys know why you're here? And we're like, no. Like, why am I here? I'm supposed to be here for a promotional video for the Muscle Maker Grill. And he says, you have been on a hidden camera show called Giving You the Business. And we're like, are you kidding me right now? Like, what are you even saying to me? And we all look at each other and we have the initial reaction. This is giving everybody a background of what happens in shows. So you have your initial reaction and then from there it was cut. And it was, okay, let's redo the entrance. And at this point, now we knew. So now we know, but we don't know what it is, what happened, whatever, whatever. We were just redoing the entrance. And the whole time we're like, what the hell's going on? Like, what are we going to do? What is it about? So then we get that going. And then the show continues. And they say, you are competing for a prize to win your own franchise. And you have been on a hidden camera show. You were tested. I don't know if you remember, you managed a restaurant and that was your test. And there was cameras everywhere. Wow. And they showed, and there was actually a team that was watching your every move. And every challenge you needed to either pass or fail against the other 3 managers who did it with you.
Wow.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, I get chills just talking about it again. I'm like, oh my God. Like, what? It's called Giving You the Business. Fit to Win is the episode. And it was aired all over Food Network, all over the world. This aired in June of 2013.
Okay.
So with that said, I was like, oh, shit. Like, what? So then they said, only one winner from here, blah, blah, blah. So they put us in our room because they're doing like now the elimination round or to tell you who won. Yeah. I remember being in my room for 6 hours because they took away our cell phone. Oh. We weren't allowed to tell nobody nothing.
Wow.
So I'm like, what am I doing here? What is life? Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to win? If I don't win, now what do I do with this? And that sparked my acting because my mom had always wanted me to act. And at that moment, I was like, maybe I should be an actress. Like, all these things was going in my head. Maybe I should start my own restaurant if I don't get this. Maybe my life was just like unfolding. I'm like, look at all these opportunities. You're great. Like, I'm just going crazy talking to myself in the mirror. But anyways, so then we walked back in, and nobody's ever seen me cry. There's only a few times this show when I won my crown and when I won my pro card on camera. With that said, they played like all the winners or whatever, and we didn't get to see the whole thing because they did that on the TV show. And when they announced the winner, it was me. I won the hidden camera show, Giving Me the Business, and I won my own business. And I like cried, and I remember saying, I could finally bring my mom here, and our life is gonna change. And I thought my whole world was and it was gonna explode from there, you know, and that was what I had hoped and really thought that it was going to be. Little did I know, it was not at all what I had imagined. But it was definitely a push in the right direction. So I won the hidden camera show, and then they told me what it was. It was either I took money from the show, or I co-owned 13 restaurants in Connecticut that are coming up with 2 business partners, Rob and Craig. So I was like, well, it's a no-brainer. I want to own 13 Muscle Maker Grills. I had no investments in it. I was the brain of the operation. I was the one who knew how the Muscle Maker Grill ran. Surprisingly, I've only been there for a few months, but I knew the ins and outs, because when I do something, I want to be the best at it. I knew from the ordering to the upcoming to the how did it, the whole thing. So then that was my job, is to bring these Muscle Maker Grills up, to make them successful. I had to learn very quickly. I had to learn how to do building permits and signage and city hall. And I was like the owner of the Muscle Maker Grills. So I remember telling my brother and saying, I'm going to Connecticut. He's like, do you even know where Connecticut is? I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, we go on the map. And I'm like, oh, that's tiny. I'm like, that's where it is. I was like, how far is that from here? So I'm like looking. I'm like, oh, that's not that bad. So yeah, so I moved to Connecticut. Before that, I do my show. There's a lot more, but go ahead. You could ask me. Sorry. I'm just moving on.
It's good, but I'm sure there's a lot to jump. But what I find really interesting about this is your move from Sacramento to New Jersey. You had this confidence to pursue your dreams, and you were. It seemed you were confident in yourself that you can achieve anything you put your mind to. But when did you gain that confidence? Because if you were insecure before...
So because I lost everybody. I think when you don't have anything, you have no choice. I was left with nothing. Money, nothing. I was as down as it gets. My friend Tiffany, who I live with, thank God she let me live with her for free. I lost everything. The job that I was at, they went under. So money stopped, and I was there on a commission base. So everything that I had, and I was reckless. I was reckless with my money, which is why I want to help people with their money, because now I'm amazing at it. But growing up, I spent, and my girls, I would spend for everybody else. At that time in 2012, when I lived with Tiffany, I was left with nothing. Nothing. I didn't have anything. No money, no house, no friends.
Wow.
And they were there, but it wasn't the true, genuine friendship that I had hoped what it would be at that age of where I was. And being left with nothing, I was like, okay, Irene, you have 2 choices. You could continue to fit into a mold, find a job here and prove I don't know what to yourself, or prove to yourself that you could get up and go and just leave, right? And my move from Reno, Nevada to Sacramento was the same thing. It was like, anytime I've ever plunged forward, it's because I've allowed myself to fail. Sadly, maybe I shouldn't let myself fail so far down, but those are the moments that had built me. And that's where that confidence came in. And I said to myself, from this point forward, I'm not going to live in a mold anymore. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I don't care what they say. I have to make something of myself, and I have to make something of my life. And that was what
amazing.
So while you were in this process, were you competing at the same time?
Yes.
What was the gym like?
I was training myself. I was still training myself. I was still focusing on that. I competed in April, actually my birthday. April 6th is my birthday. And I competed on April 6th. It was for a natural bodybuilding show where they do like the lie detector. You had to be all natural. And I remember being so nervous. I'm like, what is this? Did I train enough for this? And I mean, I didn't look as good as the other girls, because as much as the coaches helped me, we were all new at this venture. And so I just came in saying, just have a good time. You'll be fine. So yeah, I was training. The training was very, very hard because coming home to a house full of junk food with my nieces and my brother and me eating rice and chicken. And when I first started bodybuilding, that's my mentality is I had to eat rice, chicken, broccoli, rice, chicken, broccoli. Like in my head, I'm like, that's what it means to be a bodybuilder. Egg whites, egg whites, egg whites. And that's what I did. It was miserable. I was miserable. I couldn't eat. Holidays, birthdays.
So it's not like that because that's
No,
what I
it's
have
not.
in mind,
No,
and I
it
want
is
to.
not.
I
It
want
is
you,
not.
and probably the
Yeah.
audience also thinks.
Yes,
So
yes.
let's
So
try to unfold that.
yes, a lot of people think that that is what it is. Throughout the years that I have been competing, since 2013 to now, I have found out that competing is more about having a balanced lifestyle, a healthy mind to get you to where you need to go. That is going to be your driving force to get that body that you want. Can you get that body by doing the cookie cutter? Yes, you can. Do you come out of it successful in your health and in your life? No. I know so many athletes that are so unhappy that have a different mindset when it comes to healthy eating because of it, that when I found out for myself that I can have my cake and eat it too, I can have the cheat meal as long as I learn my body, that was a game changer for me. It made me so much happier in my pursuit, in my relationships, in my life. I told myself I aim to be the coach that told women and men that there is a different way.
Yeah.
All my athletes eat more than what they did prior coaches that they had prior to me. And leading up to competition, they're still at 1,500 calories. They're still at 1,600 calories when most athletes are at 1,200, 1,300, eating nothing. Right? And they still go on stage looking their best. I said, whether you get top 3 or not, I want you to excel and do well, but rather than being like, let me kill myself for 6 months because I want to do that competition at that time and I want to get first place. No, how about allow your body to flourish? Let's train you so that you are healthy throughout the pursuit, mentally, physically, financially. And then if we have to push you back 6 more months because it's going to take that much more for your body to follow you and for you to be in that mental mindset, let's do that. And now I found that that works so much better because I have athletes who are off season, healthy mindset, healthy bodies, no setbacks. Most athletes, when they step off stage, they gain so much weight back. Knock on wood, my athletes do not. My athletes can enjoy themselves. They don't feel like they're starving. They're not fainting at shows because they're dehydrated. I've made a different definition because of the experiences that I've had. The first 2 competitions that I did one in 2013 and one in 2015. 2013, I got 3rd place, by the way.
Wow.
And then overall, I got 3rd place, and then I got 5th place in my category, which is bikini. So I did that competition. I moved to Connecticut in June. I started opening up the business in June, and yeah, that's that.
I mean, could you tell us, because I'm curious to know, so you tell us a little bit about your philosophy of balance, but what does balance look like could you tell us a little bit about the time you spend in the gym and what you're eating and just a little pointers or tips for the audience, like what a balanced lifestyle for you looks like?
Of course. So the gym, competing is always going to be, it's a sport. It is very hard. Hard to find balance in your life because you do spend a good amount at the gym if you want to do it right. Again, some people will give you a workout and that's it. No, you have to get in the gym. You have to get proper sleep, which do as I say, not as I do, because my clients know I barely get sleep and I'm working on it. I do own multiple businesses, but it's not an excuse. I'm working on it. So with that said, get good sleep. And you got to do your cardio. If you got to taper off from your weight outside of your cardio, if you're not doing cardio and you don't like it, getting your steps in, which is just your regular walking, whether it's 10,000 steps, 15,000 steps, there's a science behind it. So no matter what, there's going to be something that's assigned to your body. Everybody's different. You're either going to be doing cardio, strength training, steps, or a mixture of all of the above, and then come in your diet, making sure that you prep all your meals, because you do have to stick within a regimen that we could see. So the only The only thing that's really taxing about training and why I always say have a coach is because it's, if you think about it, it's scientific facts about yourself that you're gathering information on, right? So if you were to say to me, oh, I eat very well and I don't know what happened, like I just started gaining all this weight. How am I going to find out what happened to you if you have no factual record of what you ate for a full year, what you added into your diet, what you did as an exercise differently, and you couldn't even go back to look at that? I can't. I just have to assume what I see now and how do I fix this to go backwards. If I see there's tightening in your body, then we got to fix that. So that goes on top of your training. So everybody's training is so different. So when it comes to balance, it's finding out what your body needs, what your goal is. Once that happens and you're given that part of your life, of your fitness and your health, then we have to talk about, okay, how do we fit this into your life? Because this cannot be your only life. Because when this is over, you're going to be very sad when you step on that stage and then you're done. You're going to have the blues. No matter what, you're going to have the blues because it's a whole different world. But if you could find balance during the time that you're training and find happiness within that time that you're training, when you get off stage, it's as if nothing happened and it just became a part of your life. So when I say balance, it's having the time at the gym. It could range, depending on the person, from an hour to 2.5 hours.
Okay.
From prep time would be once, twice a week of your food, or if you like to cook every day, now you're looking at 4 hours of your time spent on you, which you should. Everybody should have that time. At the very least, an hour for themselves. So many people live life for their bosses and their family and their kids. And I get that. I think the best way that I could say this is I recently watched Hillbilly Trilogy, whatever, with J.D. Vance, right? His documentary. What I came away with and what I love about that, because I helped take care of my mother, is he said to his mother, I want to help you, but I can't help you when I'm here. Right? So I think that goes with a lot of things in our life. We want to help so many people around us, but if we don't help ourselves first and we don't get to a point where we find that good balance, we can't help anybody because we're either going to be in the ground or we're going to be so buried that we can't see anybody else, right? The only way you could help and pull somebody else up is when you are there. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to find balance within yourself. So when I say balance, it's being able to know how much you have to spend at the gym, having the right program to be in the gym. I meet so many people. One of my clients, I won't say names, spent 3 hours at the gym before he met me and got nowhere. And now he spends an hour and a half tops, and he's getting the results that he needs. You have to do the research for yourself, just like you would anything else. Once you find out what that allotment of time is for you, then figure out time for your family, figure out time for your work, figure out time for your religion or your belief, and everything else that encompasses that. Once you have those hours allotted, the second part of the challenge of balance is being present in those moments and not mixing all of them together. And that is the biggest challenge when it comes to balance. And that is what I try to teach my girls. When you're at work, you are not who you are. One of my clients who is a risk manager, you could see it encompasses the rest of her life, that she's in risk management. She tries to control everything around her. And I said, you are not your work. You are your work when you are at work and you're great at it and good for you. When you're at home, you are a wife. You are in a relationship. You are a soon-to-be mother or trying to be. When you're at the gym, you are a teammate. That is who you are. You have to separate those lives for you to be able to mix that within your own self and your own soul. So you can start to fill in those little buckets. That's balance. And that's hard to attain. It is very rare for people to have that. I sometimes have to remind myself, I am not a trainer all the time. Family gatherings, everybody always asking me advice. And you know what I tell everybody? I said, this is great. I would love to help you. Give me a call. Let me be present here. In my social media presence, everybody thinks I'm on my phone all the time. But when you spend close time with me, my phone is always down.
Of course.
Always. I am not my phone. I'm not my social media. If I'm here with you, I'm going to speak with you. If I don't have time to speak to you, let me fit you into the time where that is my hat. Right? So if somebody's asking me about fitness, what do I say to them? I'll contact you. Let's put you in the schedule because then I'll have my hat on and I'll be able to pay attention to you. And that will be where my brain is.
So how did you learn like all this to incorporate it into your training? Like I assume it comes from personal experience and how you were probably burnt out about like things that you were, you know, when we work after work, we don't rest and we get burnout. But how did you come up with that conclusion? This is how it's done, and it's going down to
Good
being
question.
the present moment.
So Tony Robbins is
Okay.
a love of mine. Not really. He has a wife, and I have a boyfriend. But he was a huge driving force. So in 2012, there was a lot that goes into that growth. I decided, outside of me moving away from Sacramento, was to go to a Tony Robbins seminar. I said to myself, if I'm going to make a change, it starts with me. What can I do? I Googled, I did everything. How do you find self-confidence? It's so funny. If anybody ever saw my diaries or looked up my history of my internet, how do you find self-confidence? How do you find time? How do you find balance? Like, everything was always about that. Because when I read Tony Robbins' book, it was about asking the right questions and you will find the answers. So I stuck with that. I'm like, okay, how? So with all my house, it led me to go to a Tony Robbins seminar for 4 days. It was a 4-day seminar in LA. I was like, I don't have the money for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I spent all my money on it. I was like, here you go, $3,000. There it goes. Like, whatever. Maybe it wasn't the best thing to do, but it was, because I invested in myself.
Yeah.
That's how I justified it. And that's how I justify it for all my clients. I say, do you want to invest in yourself and get something out of it? Or do you want to invest in a purse? What do you want to do?
Right.
So I invested in myself. The 4-day seminar was beyond I could ever imagine. So many people that want so many things for their life. And I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, these people are on the same wavelength as me. For the 4 days, they teach you the right way to breathe and meditation and finding balance and time and your purpose. And it all leads up to the 4th day where you walk on the hot coal. Which I was like, oh God, I'm walking on hot coal. Okay. I'm like, all these people are walking on hot coal. So they mentally prepare you for 4 days. It's an all-day seminar to make your mind so in tune with your body to be able to accomplish this last goal. And that to me was like, wow, like, this is amazing. And I took as much as I could in. So from time management, people would come in as speakers to talk about that. They would talk about how you have to be healthy for yourself. And I said, yes, I have to be healthy for myself. How you have to have your family and you have to see more out of people than they see of themselves, and everything from that seminar, I could say word per word to now, because I took it to heart. And in the end, they teach you to say cool moss, cool moss, cool moss, which means you're walking on that cool moss in the ocean breeze. And you walk. The hot coal had to have been from that door to this table here.
Wow.
It was long. You see the trucks like dumping hot coal onto this. It's all ready for you. It's like, okay, this is fun. So I walk, and I remember at that moment, I'm walking. And I'm like, cool moss. I'm like, oh, this is great. In the middle, I had a little bit of self-doubt, and I was like, oh, this probably isn't even that hot. The minute I said word hot, burnt my foot to the crisp, and I was like, oh, cool moss, because I was still halfway through. I wasn't going to jump off the thing. In an instinct, you just move forward. So I said to myself, oh no, cool moss, and then I was fine. But when I got off, I remember looking at my foot, and I was like, wow, like, how powerful is your mind? For it to think that that was cold, and in the moment that you believed it was hot is when it affected me.
Yeah.
And that whole experience, I was like, okay,
So
this works.
this is leading to one of the 2 questions that I want to ask you. The first one is, what is fear for you? And how do you define fear, and how do you overcome fear? And the second one is, how do you put into words that connection between mind, body, and whatever that is that you call your soul, your spirit? Because, it seems to me like you have found that balance or that alignment pretty well. So how do you put that into words?
What is fear for me? Wow, what a question. Give me a minute on that one. What is fear for me? I think, to plainly put it, fear in general, for myself and for anyone, it is the idea of the unknown. Fear is really just not knowing, not being educated, not knowing what's on the other side of the door. Fear kicks in when you have no idea what's going to happen next. And to me, my definition of fear is just that. which is anytime I approach something, I always start off being fearful. I feel that like, okay, it's a flight or fight, right? Do I continue on to this journey, or do I run away from it? And in terms of association, even when there's a car approaching in front of you, fear starts to kick in. Even though you don't know if it's going to hit you or if it's not. It's that unknown moment in your life. That's where, to me, that is a definition of fear. How do I overcome fear? I found out that I have to know myself, and this goes into your second question. If you know yourself fully, you can commit to a decision much better, fearless of what's to come.
What a beautiful thing.
So
wow.
I tell my clients, I say, why are you so fearful? Tell me what's the worst that could happen, right? One of my clients had SVT. And I tell her, what's the worst that could happen? Tell yourself, because I know you're fearful of it coming back. We cured it, not fully cured. It could always come back. I said, but what are you fearful of? I said, could you die from it? She said, no. Okay. So that's the worst that could happen. And it's not going to. You already know that. You know that you've overcome it. But why are you still so fearful? Because you don't have the full conviction within yourself to know that you truly believe that this is something from your past and that it's now behind you, because you're still doubting what's in front of you, right? Even knowing that she went through all of her experiences, she won third place trophy, never had an episode, went through life's challenges along with it, and never had an episode. But now she's going through a new part of her life where it's fearful because she doesn't know what's to come next, and she's getting nervous, and it might take her away from the things that she found that she loved. And I said, that you're unsure. Anytime you're unsure, fear will kick in. But be sure in yourself. If you know that you got this and that no matter what happens, you have the team behind you to do it, to make it happen, and you have the tools in front of you, fear can take a seat. Because no matter what happens in front of you, with the worst case scenario, you're going to be able to beat this. And she calmed down. She said, okay, you're right. She's like, I have you, I have this. And I always tell myself that. I say to myself, Irene, what's the worst that could happen? And let's say it did happen. What have you overcame that you haven't been able to before? So whatever's behind that door, when I open it, I'm going to have the skill set to either dodge, to run, to punch. I gave myself those skill sets. So how I incorporate that with my clients is allow me to give you the skill set to do just that. The tools to manage your time. The tools to get to know your body so well that if you felt tired one day, it's because we have data that it's because you're stressed out over this subject. Let's say you go through a stressful time. Let me give you the tools to meditate, to reach within your soul, and whatever you believe in. I always tell my clients, I preach in believing in something. I believe in God. Not everybody has to. I was a Buddhist for 6 months of my life because I wanted to see what that connection felt like. It looks so good. But choose. It's okay to derive away from the things that you believe in or you might think you believe in. But once you experience it, choose. Make a conviction. And once you do, stick to it. But don't be afraid to change because things happen. I always say things happen. Tony Robbins says you are not the person that you are today or 30 seconds ago. As I'm conversing with you and I'm getting to know more about you, it's changing the way my mind thinks and my opinions on life. And that happens on a constant daily basis. And the reason why nobody changes is because no one's open to it.
Right.
Everybody always says, this is who I am. Well, if that is who you are, then that's who you're going to maintain to be. So when people change with or train with me, the first thing I tell them is empty your cup. I said, you cannot be my client if your cup is even half full or even a quarter full. I don't care what you think you may know. You got to come into it empty because then I could start pouring into it. And once I pour into it, feel free to pour something of yourself into it. And if you do know something that's already been there, maybe we put it back in. Or maybe it just deserves to stay out. But
Irene, this is so fascinating. I'm loving this. We're touching on things. Let me see. I'm going to try to bring back your question too in this. So I love how you talked about how you focus in on the task you're doing. And so when you're working out, and one is, do you find that working out, you're in a meditative space or mindset when you're doing that? Are you like zoning in on the workout or using the workout to meditate? And then two, about the mind-body connection, because you said you sort of believe in God and the soul. Is it when you're working out and pushing yourself as hard as you do all these years, what is that doing to you as a person or your soul? Like, is there some sort of connection through the meditation and possibly working out?
Yeah. So when I am at the gym, I aim to be present for myself.
Right.
When I work out, I tell myself, I understand things are hard. I've gone to the gym through breakups, through job losses, through friendship, fighting, family. Before I walk into that gym, I was in a sales meeting it was Best Buy. I worked for Best Buy. I've done a lot of jobs. So I was with Best Buy. And I went into a job meeting. I remember the guy saying, and this is what helped me. Remember when I said, when you hear things, you change your mindset and you become better or worse? Excuse me. So the guy, the trainer, said, when you walk into these doors, I know you're going through a lot, but I want you to take everything that you're going through, leave it behind, and come in as Irene, the Best Buy associate. So I said, okay, I like that. Okay. So when I go to the gym, I leave everything going on. And I say to myself, what is my intention of what I want to do for me during this workout session? And that is what I pray upon, and I pray to God. So I do fully believe in God. I want to make that clear. I fully believe in God. And so I pray to God and I say, God, help me through this workout. Help me discover something about myself that I'm not aware of during this training session, and help guide me to continue to grow in the safest way possible. That's like my mantra walking into the gym. So I go into the gym, and when I'm there, I listen to music that I love. I go into a meditative state, learning meditation and meditating for so many years. You learn that it's not about controlling your thought. It's about allowing the thoughts to flow through you. It's like being an observer of the sky, allowing the clouds to pass through. And not putting any definition to it, just admiring it and letting it go by. So when I work out at the gym, when things start to come into my brain, oh, what about my client here? Oh, this. Okay, I let it go through, and I look at it, and then I let it go by. And then I listen back into music. I let it go through, and I let it go by, and then I go back into music. So that's how I train when I work out. And that's how I involve that. And how I involved it within myself is I use that time, again, to really be in tune with, is there a part of my body that's hurting? Is there a reason why that's hurting? I believe in the chakras. So if is my lower back in pain, why is that in pain? Oh, is it because I didn't get any sleep? Maybe it's because I'm stressed. When I have tension on my neck, it's because I'm stressing out about something. How do I release that during the session? Let me foam roll. And then also during that time, then now all the stresses, I'm like, what is it? Ask the right question. What am I stressing about? Okay, it was that. All right, let me look at that scenario. Okay, now I'm going to let it pass through. So that's how I do that. I'm like a weirdo at the gym. And sometimes people hear me talking to myself, but that's what I do. I'm like, okay, Irene, you're foam rolling. All right, what is this stress? What am I going to label this stress over here? Oh, okay, that was that scenario. Great, I know what it is. I'll figure out how to deal with that later. Leave my body now. And that's it. Yeah.
And over the course of these many years, pushing yourself to be the WFF champion, working hard, being consistent, can you see how it's transformed who you are, how you've transformed?
100%.
Yeah.
I got into a car accident in 2022, 23, a few years ago. It was one of those years, 22, I think. Anyways, I got into a car accident. This was in March. And I remember, and this is how I know, and something always happens in my life to remind me how much stronger I'm becoming as a person and how much more in tune I am, not only with myself, but with God and with the people around me. I got into a car accident, and I remember being devastated because I couldn't move my shoulder. I had herniations throughout my back, bulging disc, upper and lower. And being a fitness person, or just having that as my career in general, I'm like, what in the world am I going to do with my life? And the doctors are looking at me and telling me, you can't work out. You got to get surgery on your shoulder. You won't, for a year, probably for the rest of your life, you're not going to be able to lift above your head. Heavy items, you as a bodybuilder, you're going to have to figure something else out. And like, you're kidding, right? What do you mean I'm going to have to figure something else out? So rather than freaking out, I did get depressed. I will say this, because I was looking into my past and all the things. The other thing that I preach to my clients is if you're depressed, you're looking into your past. If you are having anxiety, you're looking too far into your future. So I found myself being depressed because I was living in my glory days. And granted, this was only like 2 weeks after I found all this out. I'm like sitting in my pool of misery. And then I said to myself, Irene, you have to practice what you preach. You have clients looking at you. What would you tell them? You would tell them, get up, get going, stop looking in the past, figure out how you can make it work. So what did I do? Okay, aside from the fact that therapists were telling me I couldn't do something, X, Y, and Z, good old Google, good old Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, who I found at this time, love her, Zig Ziglar, you name it. I went to all the people that I knew. I always say to my clients, don't get advice from people who have not been there or who are not in a position where you want to be. So for me, I love all my friends and my family, but I look to the people, to the greatest, to the ones where I'm like, they've been through it. I watched the Jeremy Rayner episode. I don't know if you saw that, where he got over his injuries of him being mangled. In 3 months, the guy started walking again. He's amazing. That's his name, right? Jeremy,
I don't know.
the Hawkeye, the actor.
Yes.
He got in a Zamboni
yes,
accident.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and
You're
he
right.
healed in 3 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
I watched this documentary. I'm like, let's go. Like, like I was like, I got this. And so anyways, so during that time, I knew, I was like, I'm stronger than what I used to be, because what was supposed to be a 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, maybe never process, that was before I got my crown. I'm like, damn, like, how am I going to get my crown? That was in 2023, beginning of 2023.
And you got your crown.
And I got my crown at the end of 2023.
Oh.
So mind you, I got in the car accident beginning of 2023,
Wow.
where they said I would never be able to compete again.
Wow.
And I got my crown at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah.
I was
Wow.
back and working out 3 months later,
Wow.
doing everything. My body was like, let's
That's
go.
the way it is.
All right, great.
That's the way it is.
Yep.
And you rehabbed it. You had physical therapists.
I had the
but it
physical
was-
therapy that they gave me, but I was like,
You
I'm
did your
not,
thing. You-
I am
you did
not
your thing.
going to succumb
Yeah.
to what the physical therapist is telling
Yeah.
me. I'm going to listen to my body. I
Yes.
trained myself for this moment exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trained myself to know how my body moves.
Yeah.
All the coaching that I've given the girls and said, push through your limit.
And I bet you did quite the opposite to what the physical
Oh,
therapist
100%.
is
Yeah, yeah,
telling
yeah.
you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Because-
you know your
And
body.
especially like in
Yeah.
our society, we're so like used to be to accept and to control what the authority says,
Yeah.
because that's science and that's proven and you
Yeah.
have to do this, and
Yeah.
you are put
Yeah.
into a square box
Yeah.
where everybody fits in there, like there,
So
and
this
we're
is-
so different, right?
This is how I explain it, because I never blame the individual. I blame the surrounding, which means some physical therapists, they're there to make a living,
Yeah.
and rightfully
I
so.
get it. I get it. Yeah.
And they work under a company or under a certain set of rules. And now, again, never to blame anybody, whether it be the owner or whoever the case may be. There are certain laws that we abide
Yeah.
by in
Yeah.
the
And
industry of
structures,
healthcare.
yeah.
Yeah.
And structures that are put in place. So as a physical therapist, even if you believed in holistic healing, because you are under that umbrella, to protect not only yourself, but the company, you
Yeah.
have to abide by, this is the only
Yeah.
movement that you can
Yeah.
And even to protect
yeah.
your
do.
career.
Exactly.
You know,
Because
your
God
belief
forbid
system.
somebody
Yes.
gets more injured, then
Yes.
you're no
Yeah.
longer in that scope of practice.
Mhm.
And I do want to play devil's advocate to science, that science keeps changing.
Yeah.
And so what they were taught, a therapist, as like, let's
Yeah.
say the limits of human body recovery, whatever,
Mhm.
like everyone's different and everyone's
Mhm.
body could
Mhm.
recover differently, but
But,
science
but
hasn't
I
caught up.
don't I don't think it belongs to science. It belongs to
The
the
individuals.
industry and the individuals, being part of the industry.
Yeah.
Because, like, let me just give you an example. I mean, kind of the same thing happened to me. I broke my knee. I broke my knee in Colombia before shooting a movie. I was training for 3 months to shoot a movie. It was a war movie and whatever. I ended up in the hospital, and all the doctors were telling me, you need to get in the surgery room now. And there's nothing you can do. Forget about the movie, forget about the action thing, whatever. You need to get there. There's nothing we can do. And I met this guy. I think I told you a story next day. And I said, is there anything I can do to shoot the movie? I came to Colombia to shoot this movie, right? And I met this guy and he said, I would never forget. He was in the hospital and he said, you haven't heard this from me, but if you want to get better, talk to your knee. Talk to your knee. Give love to your knee. And listen to your knee. I haven't said this, if you think about two weeks after that, I was shooting the movie. I couldn't walk and whatever, but I was shooting the movie. I was training myself the way I was trying to listen to my knee. 3 months after, I was doing a soccer movie. So, and if you think about it, it's quantum, it's epigenetics, science is behind that advice.
Well,
but
perhaps mind over body or something. Like the body can heal and recover amazingly on its own. And
look at that.
You're possibly tapping into something else, and science hasn't caught up to figure out what that is yet.
Right. But that's also, it's only understandable because you don't want to lose your job. Like the guy was saying, you haven't heard that from me. You don't want to get sued.
I think as humans, and I say this to one of my clients, I said this to her the other day. I said, too much knowledge is not knowledge.
Yes.
And I always said, some things aren't meant to be understood. It's meant to be experienced, and it's meant to be believed in. That's where our faith comes in. And it's meant to be repeated in a way to help and aid you. So when it comes to science, I think it's great to know what's happening within us. But no one is fully going to understand the workings, and that's why it's currently evolving. Because of the choosings of who is looking at that science and who's speaking of it, right? So my vision of this world is different from each one of you. And the only thing I can do is understand it from the way you see it, so that it gives me a knowledge of how I can either help you or help me through your experiences. Same thing with science. If I look at a microscope and I look at a bone that's broken, I could easily say, okay, we put it together, let's put some screws in there. And then somebody else could say, no, I think that it could fuse together through cell generation. So many different opinions will go into that, right?
But ultimately, stem cells. Everybody's going to come with something.
Exactly. Ultimately, though, the one thing that we know for sure is there are miracles on this world, and they exist. And we've seen them time and time again. And this is what I told my client. I said, we never know the negative that's going to happen. Maybe you do die in the end. Maybe you don't. Whatever the case may be. But why can't you be the small percentage of the miracle that happens?
100%.
The only reason why you're not is because your brain won't allow you, because of the things that you've learned in society.
Your beliefs.
And the beliefs that you've given yourself. But if you allow yourself to tap into that 1% of the world that gets those miracles, it could easily be you.
100%.
It takes a lot of work. It actually takes more work to be in that 1% than it is everything else, because comfortability is easy. And that's the biggest difference. That's what sets aside science and life.
Life in general.
And everyone should strive to be that 1%, right? Like, what do you lose?
What do you lose?
If someone tells you, if 99% of doctors say, like, there's no way that your knee is going to recover.
If you're not going to recover anyways, you might as well try the 1%.
Exactly. You might as well try. Because what's the worst out?
Here's the thing. Like, I loved what you said. I love what you said, but I would add to that. You said, too much knowledge is sometimes not too good for us, right? But I would say rational knowledge. And let me tell you why. Because then you have the experiencing knowledge that it is still knowledge. You know when you feel when something is right for you. As you said, you don't have the certainty. You have the faith. You have the faith on your skills. You have the faith on your destiny, whatever you want to call it. You have the faith in God. But when you have to do certain things, right? When you decide to open that door, as you said, and I don't care what's on the other side, I'm ready. You have to face the fear. It's like, I'm listening to your story. You getting on that plane, coming to Jersey, saying, I'm not coming back. You getting, that day out there running, saying, I need to do something with my life. Is you having faith
Mhm.
in your knowledge as well, knowing that everything is gonna be all right. Of course, it, easier said than done. You recovering from that depression after the car accident is you knowing, I know how to deal with these things.
Yeah.
It's not rational. It's not just rational. It's coming also from something else, from a different place, in my opinion. It's coming from the heart, if you want to call it that way. It's coming from the faith. It's coming from, your spiritual life, your soul, whatever you want to say, or whatever you want to,
Yeah.
whatever explanation you want to.
I would say that it's having the openness, knowing that no matter what's going to come, it's going to come.
Yes.
There is no if everybody says, oh, it's a preconceived notion. Okay, let's say that there is. If it is a preconceived notion that this is what my faith will be, I shall take it as it is and now do something about it.
Yeah.
Make action towards what I would love it to be. Being in control of what my future might be, of how I react to certain things that are happening to me, because we're never going to be able to control everything. Only God or whoever you believe in, they are the ones in control. Because no matter what, whether it is them or whoever, they control your faith already. So why not live your life according to what's going to make you feel good as a person and what's going to give you the best experience?
Yeah.
Right? You have nothing else to lose.
Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to
Is there
think that way.
anything at this point in your life where you confront any fear or hesitation? Because, I mean, we're always a work in progress, and we sometimes have all these ideas or beliefs ingrained in our system, but still sometimes we face the fear, like you mentioned when you had the accident, that at some point you were like depressed because what you were going to do. Is there anything that you need to like going on your journey of lack of self-esteem? Is that something that comes back from time to time, or that's something from the past? What are you struggling with right now to be the better version of yourself in the future?
So I always preach this, and I say this to myself: you're always going to be struggling from something. Otherwise, you would not be human. Then you would be God.
Yeah.
As humans, we're always going to be experiencing things. I have insecurities in my relationship because I have been cheated on in the past. And that comes up. And when that comes up, I have to find ways to tell myself, it's okay, this is a good person. No matter what, if they're going to cheat on you, they're going to cheat on you. It's going to happen. But how are you going to be during the relationship? I have insecurities in my business. Am I going to get my client to where I need them to be at the time where they need to be there? And then I have to remind myself, listen to me. You know what their body is like. There's things that are outside of this that are out of your control. If they didn't do all of their workout, maybe you didn't see something and you missed something. It doesn't mean it can't be fixed. Be honest about it and move forward and get through it. I have insecurities when it comes to the new business ventures. I just started a meal prep company months ago. It's not exactly where I want it to be, but I just jumped into it. But I'm making do. Sometimes I run out of ingredients and I have to make every time. I'm fearful of, I'm like, am I going to fail at this? The Revive retreat that I'm going to start. It's like, is people going to sign up?
Yeah.
I mean, how are we when we go on this trip? Am I going to keep everyone safe? But every time a fear comes through, I find it as an opportunity, like you said, to grow. I cannot help others if I'm under the notion that I am complete. And I said this to my clients. They look up to me and they're like, Coach, I don't know how you do it. And I remind them, I'm not perfect. My clients know this. I'm late a lot of times. I can't help it in the morning because I don't sleep, right? I sleep through my alarm. I am not a perfect human being.
Yeah.
If anything, that's my biggest flaw is that like sometimes I sleep through my alarm. It's really bad. That's only in the morning. The rest of me is great. But with that said, and then my boyfriend would know that I have
But also we're talking
insecurities.
about 4 o'clock in the morning, 3
Right,
o'clock in
that's
the
true.
morning.
Regardless.
Yeah.
If I aim to be perfect, I would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
perfect in
yeah.
that way. My boyfriend, he gets annoyed at me because sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you going? You know, I'm that girl. And I tell my clients, I said, don't look at me and see the coach that you see. Look at me as somebody who is also going through things. That I am relatable because I go through myself. I share my insecurities with my clients. Sal's like, you tell your clients everything. I'm like, because for them to want to know about themselves and to learn more from me, I have to be relatable to them. And I am. I'm not above anybody else. I'm not different from anyone else around me. The only difference is that I have a pure conviction of knowing that change is possible, and I'm open to knowing that. I'm not closed off. That's what makes me different.
Yeah.
Is that I am open to that change, and I am open to knowing that my way is not the highway. You could tell me something today and be like, hey, I think when it comes to your sleep, you really should, and this is why. And I could sit here and say, oh my God, you're right. Let me try that out. And if it doesn't work, then it didn't work. But what did it hurt me?
Yeah.
Right? I'm open to it. So for me, I am far from perfect. I'm constantly working on it. Sometimes I don't call my sister and she gets mad at me. That's another aspect that I'm working on. I'm working on being more present with my family. My friend Sam hates me. I didn't make it to her birthday. And I make it to all birthdays. I was so busy. I had to make a decision between my work and Sam and my friend, and I had to redirect, and that to me, my biggest fear is that I leave tomorrow and I wasn't able to touch enough people. I wasn't able to help enough people. And how do I combat that? I said to myself, you've helped enough to let your legacy live on. And that's it. And your words will be spoken for however long it lasts. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay now. I can breathe again.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that.
You tell us, you touched on it a little bit, but tell us more about like what's next for you. What are you doing? What are you excited about?
Oh my God, I'm so excited about so many things. I want to get back into acting. That's one. I was telling you guys, I used to act in 2019. I love acting. I do. There's something about getting into a character and just getting lost in it and being behind the camera and having someone watch your work and your art and just, I don't know, I can't watch myself. It's a weird thing, but I can. I'm trying to get over that. But when I watch other people, it amazes me to be able to see them in different scenes, right? Like watching your favorite actor, it's like, how did you do that? It's that amusement and amazement of the process of learning the script and everything, the whole thing. And being in front of a platform where you can make a bigger difference. My biggest long-term goal is to have a nonprofit women's organization. I believe that everything starts with a woman. Us as women, we give birth. We choose to give birth, right? It is, at the end of the day, our body, our choice, right? We could choose. We choose to stay in these relationships that may or may not serve us. The only reason why we don't have a choice is because we don't have the confidence to get out and we don't have the tools and the knowledge to know how to get out of a bad situation because of how we grew up and our surrounding. And there's so much more that encompasses that just through our conversation today. So my goal is to have a facility to help women physically, mentally, financially, not to be here to just come to me to talk about your problems. No, to give you solutions, whether it be a vision board, whether it be how can I mentally help you meditate into the state of mind that you're in currently? What does your surrounding look like? How do we fix your circle? Let's tap into that. I want a group of experts from holistic healing to scientific counseling to be able to be there by my side to help you in any place that you are. Because depending on the stage of life and the problems that you have, you're going to be open to certain types of help. And if I have that team behind me, I could help anyone. And that is my goal. When I meet people and I see these within themselves, I tell them, I call it collecting puzzle pieces, right? And this has been misconstrued. Someone had said, oh, she collects people for her own benefit. No, I collect people who I believe is going to help in the pursuit of what it is that I'm trying to achieve. If you're somebody who is a great physical therapy, who believes in helping people, I'm going to collect you as a human in my mind to help me in the future to make a difference and a change. So that's the women's organization. It is called an I Love Me Not movement, which I used to have a podcast on it and I want to bring it back. That's one. That's the main goal. The upcoming is Revive and Retreat, which is a getaway to mentally and physically just reset. It's a 5-day getaway. The first one we're going to do is Casa de Campo. And it is a chance for us to get there, to be in a beautiful environment with women. It starts off with women. I am going to have a co-ed retreat, but I'm going to have women in one roof where we're all for the same journey. Whatever that may be, it's towards a better self and a better being for the people around us. So it's going to encompass beautiful start to a breakfast, meditation, doing some before lunchtime, doing some activities when it comes to mental mindset, talking about a specific topic such as getting over fear, getting over any obstacles that are coming your way throughout the 5 days. It's going to be a lead up to now having a vision of what you want to do. Leaving this retreat. Like you're going to have a clear vision.
It's the Irene version of Tony Robbins
Yes.
for women.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I love that. I love that. And that is it. And we're going to have excursions to get you over your fear. I want to do things that are like zip lining, because I know a lot of the 3 main points of fear is fear of height, right? Or doing
Ice
something
plunge.
unfamiliar.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
The whole 9 yards. And that's what this retreat is going to be.
Cool.
You're going to come home being like, wow, I wasn't in a seminar. I was in an experience of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if I can do all that, I could do anything, right?
I'm
So-
jealous. I want to do it.
Sign
Yeah, yeah. You
in.
gotta
I'll let
open
you
up.
know.
Yeah, you gotta open up for men.
We could let them
Yeah,
know how it
yeah.
goes. I do have male clients, by the way, and it's so funny because they always say, you love the girls more. I'm like, no, I love everybody equally. It's just that it starts with them.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing coming up, or the third thing coming up. And I aim to grow Irene Fit. So Irene Fit is an online platform. I train people all over the world. I have a client in the UK, Colombia. I have a client in Virginia, all over the US. So my aim is to bring on coaches that have the same mindset and feeling that I have for themselves, not necessarily for what I want, but the belief that you can make a change in people and that you can help them through helping them through their physical and mental aspect. So I want to grow Irene Fit so much so that I have coaches all over the US and all over the world, and maybe even them have their own stem of what Irene Fit is and do their own thing. I want to make Irene Fit into something that people could come to until that woman's organization is up and running. And then Irene Meals, which I just do it locally right now. I help everyone nutritionally build and get to their goal, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve. I do all of your macro calculations. I do your before and afters. And there's another company, I want to shout them out, Eye Candy Meal. She's amazing. If my company is not as big, I aim to be, but if you need another company and I can't Eye Candy Meals, go to them. She's great. She's doing that. And that's where I got the idea of like, wow, there's only one of her. We need more of this around. We can't handle all businesses. And I say that about Irene Fit too. I'm only one human being. I aim for this world to have more of Irene Fit, to have more of Irene Mills, and I welcome everyone, right? If I have a trainer who's like, I want to open up my own and call it this and live right next to you, like, go, please, because I can only handle so many people. Like, I think as humans too, we're in scarcity. Right? A lot of our mindset is in scarcity, which is why we do things at a moment's notice and we don't think things through.
But when you think that if somebody else is doing it, there's not going to be enough for you.
Yeah. We're in that mindset. And it's like, no, I want everyone to know there is enough for everyone.
Yeah, there is more than enough, actually.
And
there is
depending,
abundance for
there is
everyone,
abundance. And depending on how you want to work hard and how you want your business to grow, it will grow.
Yeah.
No one's taking away from you ever. If anything, you're going to take away from yourself.
Yeah.
So.
And Irene, before you ask the question, just can you let the audience know where they could find you?
Yes, you could find me on Instagram at Irene Jean Santos, IreneJeanSantos, and I think you'll probably do the thing, right? And, that is for my Instagram. For the Irene Fit, it is at Irene Fit, Irene Meals, at Irene Meals. For the Revive Retreat, it is Revive Retreat by Irene. And I have a website, JeanReneFit.com. That's it. That's what I got.
Last question.
You can email me at IreneJeanSantos@gmail.com.
What is the soul for you? How do you define the soul?
I define the soul as a universal connection. I don't think my soul is mine. I think that the soul is one energy encompassing all of us around the world. To me, we are all one soul. And the more you are open to knowing that, for me, the more I've been open to knowing that we are one has enabled me to coexist with anyone around me who had either different beliefs, same beliefs, or someone who I've never encountered before. meeting all of you, coming in here, meeting my clients, I say to myself, my soul's not mine. My soul is yours as well as your soul is mine. And whatever it is that you have to teach me and we have to learn together, we will. And if we connect our souls together, which it already is, and we allow ourselves to do that, then we flourish further.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. This was so
Right?
informative, right? This
Yeah.
is cool.
No, but it was beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing
course.
your soul
Yeah.
Thank
with
you.
us.
Of course.
And,
Of course.
Yeah.
and thank you
you.
for being here and for being you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
This
thank
is
you for being here.
amazing. Coffee, matcha, and soul.
you.